Well, hello, lovelies, and welcome to this week's podcast episode. It's a little bit different this week. You might be able to tell that already because I do have a special guest here with me today. Now, lovelies, you know the usual drill. Depending on where you're watching this, are you watching this on my YouTube channel? Are you listening to this on Spotify? Or are you watching it in Facebook land? Let me know where you are watching. Comment away. And don't forget, if you're not already subscribed in one of those places, you definitely want to do that. You will find some links loitering around that you can tap to get yourself on board and never missing a weekly episode. So, as I said, this week, something a little bit different. I actually reached out to one of my former BEEHIVE members, Janice Lowry, and Janice is actually just finishing up with Postie Fashion. So, Posty Fashions is an Australian-owned fashion brand, direct selling company who've been around for a really, really long time, and they have made the decision to close the doors recently. And Janice was with them for over 30 years, which is absolutely amazing. Janice is in her 70s. She's a mum, she's a grandma, she's a wife, and she has run a highly successful direct selling business for that, for this past 30 odd years. And Janice came to me a few years back to learn about how to use social media to grow her business that way. So we are going to dive in. I have got some questions for Janice because I think lovely's having a listen to what Janice has to share about her 30 plus years in direct selling. I think it's going to be really valuable for you to listen in. So sit down, listen up, take some notes, get some ideas, get some inspiration, and let me know at the end what you've thought of today's podcast episode. So, Janice, you have been in direct selling for over 30 years, which is absolutely incredible. Looking back, what actually first drew you to it back in the beginning?
Um, at the time, I was actually looking for a part-time job because
Mm-hmm.
the kids were in school, and I just wanted that, job of interest, pocket money and such. Never ever thought about direct selling, didn't even sort of have an idea, but was invited to a postie party.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always loved fabrics. I fell in love with the fabrics. I fell in
Mm-hmm.
love with the size range.
Yeah.
And at the time, I thought the stylist wasn't doing the best job. I, I could do better than that. Well, when you actually stand up in front and start, being on that side of the
Yeah.
in the room, it's a lot more than just, being whatever. But anyway,
Yeah.
so I joined, and
Yeah,
I've
fantastic.
never regretted it. I've always
That's
loved it. So I've
yeah.
never been in any other direct selling company. It's only
Yep.
ever been with Postie Fashions. But I
Yeah.
mean, most of them are all very, very similar.
Yeah.
And
It's just product of choice, really, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
I think to me,
What
you
made
have
you?
to have a passion
Yeah,
about the product that
100%.
you are representing, and you have to believe in that product, and you have to believe in the company and what they stand for. And I think
Yeah,
when you have those
totally agree.
combinations,
Mm.
you can only be successful. So
Yeah, 100% love that. So what made you stay for so long, despite sort of any challenges you faced over the years? Because I'm sure there have been challenges over the years. What kept you going?
the clothes. If you ask most of old postie stylists, they would
Yeah,
probably say it's the clothes
yeah,
because amazing range,
yeah.
always changing, adapting to everything,
Mm,
so and always at a great discount price. So that's it.
mm,
I was always often thought too, we're not a huge company. And
mm.
so you have this bonding with the directors, and they're
Yeah,
very approachable, they're very friendly, and you feel part of it all. You don't
yeah,
feel like it's them and us.
yeah.
And, and it's sort of the friendships and things that you make as well along the line. I never had any great challenges. Everything's been,
Mm,
they're pretty run very fairly, and I just don't think there was very much. So, and I think I just stayed because I really do love the clothes and I love
mm,
fabrics and
mm.
just touch and feel the quality and it's there.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And of course, it also too is the friendships you make in the, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. So you would have seen the industry evolve quite a lot over the years, right? So, so you would have joined what, back in the 90s? Am I?
Right. I was in Canberra,
Yeah.
October 93.
Yeah, wow.
So yeah,
Fantastic. Yeah, yeah.
it was,
So
yeah.
you would have seen
So
a lot of
I think
changes.
I think the main at that time,
Mm.
the main thing that changed our business was the fax machine.
The
I,
fax machine.
I mean, and
There could be some young ones listening to this going,
don't
what
even
even is a fax machine?
handwriting our invoices and putting them in and doing the snail mail to
Yeah.
Melbourne. And
Yeah,
that
wow.
took a long time for the deliveries and everything. But when the
Yeah.
fax machine came in,
Yeah.
we could come home from the doing a demonstration, do
Yeah.
the order, put it on the fax machine, and it
Yeah.
was there for the girls to do in the morning and just made our deliveries a lot quicker,
Yeah.
and everything. So it was really, really was
Yeah, yeah.
the fax machine was a really big thing. Just as a sideline, they used to always told us to do a cover note because you get in on Monday morning and apparently the office in Melbourne was just the floor was covered with pieces of paper. So the poor girls used to have to go around and
And
get all
work out what
things.
was what.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But anyway,
wow.
and I think then it was the social media,
Yeah.
in the last 8, 10 years, whatever
Mm.
it's been, has been a big major change for me.
Yeah.
Um, I moved from Sydney. I was in Canberra, moved to Sydney, and now I'm up here in Ballina. So I've
Hmm.
really lost my one-on-one base in
Yeah.
Sydney when
You're
I
in
came up
person
here.
based.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so learning about social media and all that helped me
Mm.
keep my business going and
Mm.
making new friends. So yeah, Facebook has been a real big part of
Yeah.
my post was a really big
Yeah.
part of my postie
I know.
business.
Look, I'm sure
Yeah,
after 33, 32, 33 years, it's probably going to take a little bit of time to adjust to the fact that Posty Fashions is no more. I'm absolutely sure of that.
yeah, it is.
Um,
Yeah.
how did COVID affect your business? I
Oh,
mean, who can believe COVID's like 6 years ago now, but how did COVID
no, I
affect your
know.
business?
Well, I always said COVID improved my business.
Yeah.
I must
Okay.
be probably the only one.
No, no, I actually hear of lots of stories of, different businesses who, yeah, embraced, how do we do this in the online space? From my past time with you when you were part of my BEEHIVE membership program and one-on-one coaching, and I was thinking actually of, like you started off when I was first doing masterclasses, when I first started my coaching business like 5 years ago. I think you were, one of the first people to actually start doing my, I think I started with monthly workshops and fortnightly workshops and things like that. So yeah, so like through COVID, like what sort of changed? How did you change and make that still work
Well,
for
it
you?
was attending and joining Facebook groups that
Yeah.
were specifically for direct sellers
Yeah.
and learning more about how to present online, do
Yeah.
your Zooms, do your lives on Facebook, and just learning all those little things that helps with your business. And through joining those groups,
Yeah.
you actually extend your network of customers because we
Yeah.
all sort of interact with each other. We're all in the same industry and they've got products you like and they love your products. So, it's a bit of an interaction there going on all the time. So I've met some amazing ladies and still in contact with them. And I just think that was probably one of the big things too, was how far your business can spread through social media. Yeah.
Yeah. It is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So with Postie Fashions only just closing their doors last week, I'm sure it's still very fresh, although you did say, you were all notified earlier this year, but I guess it would probably really only be starting to hit home now. What's it been like over over the last few months or, and in this last week where it's sort of becoming reality? What's been going through your mind during this time? How's it all feeling?
I mean, I'm not a person that panics until the very last minute. So, I sort of probably have accepted it. And because we've had such a lead up to it, I mean, the company have put on some amazing sales and everybody wants to make sure they have their pair of jeans that's going to last them for the next 5 years. So we have been having some amazing sales. And just as a sideline, March, I had my biggest sales I have ever had for a very, very long.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's fantastic.
And it was all online. And
Yeah.
so you go on to your page in the morning and you see somebody has put something up during the day or
Yeah.
overnight, they've ordered something, and then the next, and you go back in the evening and another sales come up. There was
Yeah,
just
brilliant.
sales just coming in. And I'm just
Oh,
thinking,
wow.
but that was, like you said, what do you think? I said, oh, I can keep doing this. It's easy. The sales just, churning over by themselves.
Yeah,
And then you
amazing.
go, oh, no, it's not going to happen.
It's not
But
gonna
it just
continue.
is quite amazing how everybody in our community,
Yeah.
our customer base, we're all, taking advantage, which is fabulous, of the
Yeah.
sales and getting some great things for themselves
Yeah.
before it all closed. So
But it's felt like a great, sort of last hurrah sort of thing.
yeah. Well, I think I think the company approached it the right way. I mean, of course, they don't want excess stock. So yeah, but they gave us enough time to sort of get it, settle into the idea.
Yeah.
And then yeah, and I mean, they have meetings with the managers all the time, and we've had group Zoom meetings
Yeah.
national wide. So we've been kept in the loop
Yeah,
all the time. And
fantastic.
I think that's what part of them being good, nice,
Nice
nice,
people.
good, good directors, so they
Yeah.
keep you in the loop of what's happening. So I
Yeah.
think that's very important. You're not feeling like, you don't know why or what's happened
Yeah.
why. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, cool, cool. So you were part of my BEEHIVE program for a number of years and also did that one-on-one coaching with me as well for a number of years too. What made you decide to invest in that support and what were you hoping to achieve at the time? Do you
Yeah.
remember?
Sort of just a little going back a little bit.
Yeah.
I was in a group called Savvy Circle when I was in
Mm-hmm.
Sydney, run
Yeah.
by Sharon's Swan. And
Mm.
anyway, I started doing, and this is, way back, started
Yeah.
doing networking
Yep.
workshops with her online
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
everything. And then, I think also you've got to change to
Mm-hmm.
what's more directly for you. And
Mm-hmm.
when I came into BEEHIVE, I felt that because you've also been in direct selling, and being manager, being, top sales, blah, blah, all your
Yeah, all the
big
things, yeah.
achievement
For
you did.
those who've been in my world for a
Yeah,
while, they would
yeah,
be aware that I spent
yeah.
16 years in direct selling, built a multi-million dollar direct selling business, was awarded in 2020 the Direct Selling Association of Australia's Distributor of the Year. So yeah, all the things. So yeah, like you said,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely I've got all that hands-on experience.
I
So
think you
yeah,
having that as your background
yeah,
then makes you feel confident that you will be able to help. And I think I did say to you when we first had our very first
yeah,
interview, whatever you tell me, I
yeah.
probably have done,
Mm-hmm.
but I just need to be told in a different way
Yeah.
and
And
to
it
be
is often that,
and
isn't
be
it?
refreshed
Yeah.
on ideas. Because I mean, when you've been in a business, this sort of business for so long, and even for
Mm,
yourself,
mm,
it sort of just turns over and repeats itself. But you just got to keep trying it in a
mm.
slightly different twig. And I think being in the beehive, you were able to give me that
Yeah.
and help me. I did like, especially liked our one-on-ones because I
Hmm.
think because you were focused on me,
Yeah, completely.
and I really liked that because then you were saying, well, you didn't do this last month. You sort of just keep you on check, and I
Yeah.
think that's for me personally, that is what I needed,
Yeah.
and
Accountability.
it did really help me
Yeah.
push my business forward. So yeah, so,
Yeah. That's cool. I was going to ask too, like, what do you think some of your biggest changes or wins you actually experienced from being in my beehive and getting the coaching? Whether that was sort of in your confidence on, your Facebook activity, your results, like, what do you feel were
well,
some of
I
the
think
wins from doing the time with me?
you were the instigator of pushing me to do my lives.
Yeah. Which became you became that became a thing, didn't it? Your weekly
Well, I
live at
found,
five. Like
yeah. And people say, "Oh, I hope you're going to continue doing them." And
oh,
I'm thinking, I don't know what I'm going to talk about, But anyway,
yeah.
I've done a few posts in my page. I'm not closing my page down because I'm
Yep.
not quite sure what I'm going to do. I'm
Yeah.
just, put a few
Community group, like your customer community group, you mean?
my
Yeah.
group. Um, there, I won't do that. But
Yeah.
like with your lives, now I know how how important they really are.
100%.
I was doing a live on my page
Mm-hmm.
once, about once a week, and
Mm.
midweek it was like, what am I wearing today? Have I
Yeah.
just gone into town, or you just whatever I was wearing. I'd get up and talk for about the 5-10 minutes, and I think that
Mm.
was the thing too. You just keep it short, not too
Yep.
long.
Yep.
Um, Keep it chatty. I'd always started with a glass of wine, which
Oh
people,
yeah, you live at fives, yes.
and even with the other one, I would, because it was about 6 o'clock, I would do those. I'd have my glass
Yeah.
of wine and talk about it. But then I would share that with the community pages
Yeah.
in my local area.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it really was interesting in that I actually had people come up to me in the street to
Yeah.
say, "Are you that lady with the glass of wine?" And I go, "Oh, yes." And then, and I've had people in the community come part of my face, my community,
Your
post
customer group.
community, and we're
Mm.
become amazing customers as
Yeah.
well. So yeah, it just
That's
sort of
fantastic.
got to listen to you, Penny.
Yeah. Do you know what? I still remember you saying to me, probably, I don't know, maybe a year in or whatever. I remember you saying to me, just goes to prove that you can still teach an old duck new tricks. I
Yeah.
loved that. I just thought that was
uh,
brilliant. It's such a great
uh,
saying, and as you said, like at that, when you came to me, you'd already been with Posty for, 28 years or whatever. You'd been doing a bit of social media, but you were sort of, I guess, looking for that next level.
yeah,
And I got you doing some different things in your business, really working your customer community and all those sorts of things. And, it was really great because, I know that you could see where the sales were coming in because of what you were doing
yeah,
on social media, because of what you were doing on Facebook. And you could see that correlation, of thousands of dollars in sales coming about because of what you were doing
yeah,
on
yeah,
social media. And it was just amazing. I loved that for you. I loved supporting you. It was so
yeah.
brilliant.
No, it was good. I loved it. I did enjoy it. Our time
Yeah.
together there. Yeah.
So for women listening who might be feeling unsure about their next step, whether to keep going, because, we all know that building a, direct selling or network marketing business is not necessarily a walk in the park. It can have its challenges. It can be a bit up and
Yeah.
down and all those sorts of things. So, sometimes, women are sitting there going like, why am I doing this? What's the point? Especially if they're predominantly using trying to use social media to grow and they're hearing crickets, right? It's not kind of working for them, and they're wondering, do they keep going? And wondering also if they should invest in that support for their business, right? For themselves to learn more, learn what are the right Facebook strategies and stuff, because it is different, isn't it? Like using
Yeah.
Facebook to grow a business as opposed to just hanging out being
Yeah.
social. It's a different kettle of fish. What would you
Mm.
say to them? Like, you've obviously, like, you invested in my program, you've invested in other trainings and things over the years. What would you say to women who are wondering, should they do this? Should
I
they keep
think
going? Should they invest in training and support?
if they still have their passion for their
Yep.
product, I think they should just stick at it and
Yeah.
keep going and go through, maybe find somebody that can support them
Yeah.
in your, like join a group like
Yeah.
yours,
Yeah.
be part of that. And I think that's very important because it's sometimes when you're in that bigger group, not just on the one-on-one, you
Mm,
form relationships with the other girls in the group. And I think
mm,
that helps bond you and helps you give you direction on where you want to go. And it's also when we do the one-on-one, because you
mm.
gave us direction, so what do you want? And you
Yeah.
help us focus on that. And I think sometimes and direct selling has always been, you sort of work by yourself, but not
Yeah.
really for yourself. There's
Yeah. Yeah.
support there, but you've got to learn to remember to use those supports. And
Yeah.
call out, say, oh,
Yeah, yeah.
help me.
Hello, I need help or
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah, I don't
yeah.
understand something or
And as
yeah,
they
whatever it
always
is.
say at a conference, don't they? No, there's never a dumb question because
100%.
yeah, if you've thought of something, someone else has thought of it, is thinking of it, and
Yeah.
they want that answered as well. So yeah, put your hand up, ask your questions, and I think just yeah, and especially if you do love your product, if you have a
Yeah.
passion for your product, I can't see any reason why not going to keep going.
Yeah, yeah. Keep
You
doing
will
it.
go down. I mean,
Mm.
direct selling is an up and down game,
100% it can be, can't it?
all the time. There's
Yeah.
you reach a high point, big point, high point, and then you have a little bit of a low. But the lows aren't that low, really, So yeah,
Yeah. If you keep going, perseverance, right? I always think,
yeah,
one of the key factors to building a successful direct selling or network marketing business is that perseverance, that never say die attitude. Like, keep going, keep pushing
yeah,
forward. And, if something's not working, then try something different, go out and learn something different, a different way to do something, a different way to approach something, and really go out and try something different because, if you're always, if you do always, what's that saying, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. It's so much truth in that, right? Isn't there?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
stop banging
yeah,
your head against a brick wall, doing
yeah.
the same thing. If it's not working, you got to
Yeah,
try something
exactly.
different,
And I
right?
your own personal self too. You've got to change those ways of doing things
Yeah.
because you become stale and you need fresh ideas of presenting the same thing
Yeah.
but just slightly different, and it makes it more interesting for you and for your customers. So, and
Yeah.
I think if you can keep doing that, even it can only be just a little twig, and it just
Yeah.
makes so much difference to how it's received. And yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah,
I
just
mean,
keep
I
it.
think that like the foundations don't really change. It's just like the little sort of little bits and pieces that change, and even like with social media, the foundations of using social media to build a business, it really, I mean, it's always been about connection and relationships and engagement, right? That's always been what works. And I guess it's just sometimes, some things change, things like, when Reels came out, Reels was like, and they still are hot, like a hot thing. The Facebook algorithm, still favors them. So if you embrace doing reels, then that's great attraction marketing. Like you were saying with your lives, you had so much success with doing your lives in your Facebook community. You did them consistently every Friday afternoon, 5 o'clock. You showed up. You did a styling session or whatever, and the sales used to come in. People, and I think this is true too in with so much AI now, so much artificial intelligence, we've got all the ChatGPT, and don't get me wrong, I love my ChatGPT. And I certainly train, on how to
Yeah,
use it the right way and all those sorts of things. But realistically, going live is what really builds those connections where people can listen to you, see how, see if they resonate with you. I
yeah,
mean, that's what makes the difference, that personal branding so that you stand out. I mean, at the end of the day, Janice, I mean, there's a million places that women can go and buy clothes, right? What made the difference is how you talked about them and what you did and what you showcased and the customer service you provided and all those sorts of things, and it's why, you had such a successful business for over 30 years because you went out and you were you and you did your thing and you shared and you helped and provide a great customer service. And I think that's just absolutely wonderful. And I was really excited to, ask you to come and join me,
thank you.
on the podcast. It was just, I was just really thrilled. I was like, you know what? I really want to get Janice in to talk about her experiences, and, and those changes and things. So what has direct selling given you over the last 30 odd years beyond, the income that came with it? Like, what do you think's been your favorite things? What's it given you, do you think?
An amazing wardrobe, uh,
Of course.
of course. And I think the after that, it really is when it comes to it is the friendships
Yeah.
that to me that we've made over the years, like
Mm.
from the very first person you recruited into the business, you're still good friends with them,
Yeah.
your team, your manager, your colleagues in your group
Yeah.
and your customers, like
Yeah.
you have customers that you've become your best friends and
Yeah.
you go and visit them and you stay with them over, in their homes.
Yeah.
And you and then your husband's all, like it becomes a family. I
Yeah.
mean, like a real bonding. And I really do think you hear these stories about across the board of all
Mm.
direct selling. Everybody has their best friend, and it's probably who they've met in a direct selling
Yeah.
situation. It could be, like, I don't know. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it
I
really
don't,
is the friendships.
yeah, because I don't think anyone who's not in direct selling or network marketing really gets what it's like to be in direct selling or network marketing. So it kind of makes those extra strong connections, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it really is the connections, like just through when we first started doing all this with
Mm.
when COVID started,
Yeah.
I just been there was Brooke and Alex and myself, and we seemed
Yeah.
to start just at that same time. I
Yeah.
don't mean I was old enough to be their mothers, but
Yeah.
that we sort of all just connected. And
Yeah.
what I found lovely is that we're still connected with each
Yeah.
other,
Yeah.
which is really lovely. And I've actually met them because
Yeah.
Brooke is I'm up here in northern New South
Yep.
Wales. Brooke is way down on the Murray River
Mm-hmm.
or somewhere, Swan Hill. I think it's on the
Yeah.
Murray River.
Yeah. Yeah. Victoria.
Somewhere very close.
Yeah.
And Alex is in Sydney, and
Yeah.
I've actually been able to meet them a couple of times and
Yeah.
have coffee catch ups while we've
Yeah.
been traveling around the place. And I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that to me is very, very special that you can form these relationships with people, and you're driving through. I just we were. My husband's going away for a holiday in Europe, and
Mm.
I wasn't going with him, and I was just.
Okay.
And I thought, oh, when he goes, I'm going to pack my car. I'm going to put all my postie gear in it, and I'm going on a road trip. I had pounds scattered all over. I had Hay, Orange,
Yeah.
Bathurst, Swan Hill. I had all these places that I had planned to do, hook up
Yeah.
with people, and say hello, show my
Yeah.
clothes, and just have
Yeah.
a couple of good weeks of touring around New South Wales and Queensland because I've got friends. Don't think I've got a customer up in Tully, but she's too far to go. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah. That's fantastic.
Uh,
Oh, I've just
and
lost
that
you
we
step
could
on
it
it.
was a doable plan,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah. So, but anyway,
Oh, well,
life changes and things
it
happen.
does. It does.
Yeah. Oh
Any
yeah.
ideas yet? What's next for you?
No,
No, not yet.
I really don't. I might have to clean my house, but which is, actually, I have been doing a little bit more than I normally do. So
Yeah.
within the housework, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, keep getting back on top of that. But yeah, whoever gets on top of housework,
Oh,
really.
no, it's never ending, isn't it? All
Yeah.
right, then. Thank you, lovely. Very much appreciate you hanging out with me for these last, I don't know, 20 minutes, half an hour. I'm not sure how long we've chatted away today in this week's podcast. For everyone that has been listening in, I hope you have enjoyed this week's podcast. If you did, if you loved it, do let me know down below. Pop it in the comments, send me a DM. You are more than welcome to reach out. And of course, share this podcast with a friend. Let's get the word out there to all the women out there in direct selling and network marketing about my weekly podcast full of tips, tricks, motivation, ideas, and, just some general fun information, right? So thanks,
But
lovelies, and I will see you next week. Bye.